Yeah, that's better. I would go even slightly lower.
I think we might be live. Hello. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special live stream from radiotimes.com. We are gathered here today to talk all about The Last Kingdom Season 4, which dropped on Netflix last weekend. My name is David Craig. I'm a writer for radiotimes.com, and I'm delighted to say that we're joined tonight by some wonderful guests from the show. Let me introduce, not that they need any introduction, Alexandra Dreymon, who plays the legendary Uhtred of Bevenber. We have Eliza Butterworth, also known as Lady Aylesworth of Wessex. And last but not least, we have The Last Kingdom executive producer, Nigel Marchant. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. It's such a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Also a big thank you to everyone at home for sending in questions on our social media channels. We were really overwhelmed with all the responses, and we're going to be answering some of those a bit later. You can also ask questions tonight in the comments section below this video, and we'll try and get to a couple of those as well. Now, before we get talking all about The Last Kingdom Season 4 and all the big new plot developments, I just want to get us started on a fun and very appropriate viewer question for everyone. And that is, if you had to be quarantined with a character from The Last Kingdom, who would it be? Who would like to start? Alex, would you like to start?
Sure. I'd go with Brita, because I feel like if you survive quarantine with Brita, you're ready for anything in life.
I like that. I like that. Eliza, what about you?
I'm gonna have to say Phelan, because especially during the plot point about the sickness, I mean, that guy will have every like antibacterial spray at hand. You know, I'm never gonna get sick in a million years with that guy around. So Phelan,
that's smart. That's a good answer.
And Nigel, what about you?
Yeah, I'd go with Phelan. I think he's a good crack. I think you'd have fun with him. Or any of the Danes, any of the in a big kind of large hall drinking, I'd be fine with.
Yeah. You want someone...
We'd be socially distanced, obviously.
Yes.
Yes,
you
but you
can fend
definitely...
off every germ with a sword, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So to get started, then we're going to be talking a bit about the latest developments in Season 4. I will warn you now, there will be some spoilers in this discussion, but we're going to start off with some minor stuff, and then we'll move on to the bigger spoilers a bit later. So I'll give you another warning before we move on to those. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. There's so much to talk about, and one of the big things in Season 4, one of the big changes is the introduction of Uhtred's children, who are now a bit more grown up. And it would be fair to say that Uhtred hasn't been a hugely attentive father in the past. So Alex, how did you find exploring that new side to him?
Oh, I had the best time. I think it was time to bring his kids in, and once again, casting was phenomenal. We got Finn and Ruby, who I think did an extraordinary job, and I think they brought so much to the show that only actors of that age can really. They brought such a freshness.
Definitely. I think everyone's been really impressed by their performances as like young up and coming actors. I was wondering, Nigel, can you reveal a bit about how you cast the roles and what were you looking for?
Yeah, sure. So we've been blessed the fact that we've had Kelly and Alex with us from the very beginning, who are our casting directors. And I think they're hugely talented at finding new faces and new talent coming through. And because they've been there since the beginning, I think it was really important for us to feel that there was kind of physical resemblance. They look like Uhtred's children. And then, as Alex says, I think in finding that energy, that naturalism and truth that comes with the show. And we cast Finn a bit earlier because he was in the series earlier. So, he came and we were knocked out by his performance. And we got him and Alex together to kind of feel the energy and how they worked, which was great. And then Ruby was a bit later in the season, so we had a bit more time. And we just looked at her casting tape and thought she was knockout, brilliant, perfect. So it's lovely casting. It's really good fun.
Yeah, definitely. Fantastic. And of course, Uhtred is not the only person who we see a different side of in this season, because Aylesworth is also developing hugely. We're definitely seeing a more sensitive and sympathetic side to her. So I was wondering, Eliza, how did you react when you were reading the script and you saw what direction the character would be moving in?
Oh, I was absolutely delighted to see that we could explore her more vulnerable side, and she's definitely gained some redemption from the audience. Phew! So it's been really, really fun to explore those sides. Yeah, and nice to see that although she's, you know, starting off a new life with the loss of Alfred, that she's actually gaining the wisdom from others now and almost can apologize for some of her actions in the past, which is good.
Almost.
Exactly.
Nearly there, nearly. She's not an angel. She's still up to her scheming shenanigans as usual, but you know, she's getting there.
Definitely. I mean, as the person who's been playing her, have you always seen kind of a more sympathetic side to her, even when she was sort of a bit more antagonistic?
Absolutely, yeah, I really have, because I feel as though even though some of her intentions were seen as quite callous, she's always sort of tried to do the best thing in the eyes of God and to complete her husband's legacy of a united land. So everything that she's done in the past has been seen as dutiful to her God, dutiful to her kingdom, but now she's realizing upon reflection on her own that actually she needs the help of others and needs to start a new lease of life.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of very big things that happen in just the first few episodes. We're going to talk about some of them a little bit later. But something which I found really impressive in the fourth episode, we have a huge battle, which isn't much of a spoiler to say there's a huge battle in the Last Kingdom. They do happen quite a lot. But I wanted to ask you, Nigel, about the Battle of Tettenhall, because it's this very big, ambitious sequence. And where do you even start when it comes to sort of orchestrating something like that with so many actors and stunts and horses and things like that? What's the process of putting that together?
A lot of tears, a lot of nervousness. We often bring in, what we try to do with the battles each time is try and make them feel a bit different and new, but always find what's the story beats in it. I think as an audience, I myself, is it just huge battles and you don't care about anyone, you've got no engagement. So it's finding those character beats throughout the battle, and then it becomes the logistical side. So you know, we talked to Levente, who's our stunt coordinator. Again, he's been with us since the beginning. He directs some of the action now. And what new can we do that we haven't done before? What haven't we tried? We look at different locations. What does that topography and the location offer up? And then start plotting out the different story beats. And obviously this was one of the, I think probably the longest battle we've ever done, certainly the most complex. With you know, horses and trenches and a lot of extras, and then you know, 3 different armies all turning up, and even at the end of that, then we carried on with the kind of Breeder, Uhtred and Canute storyline. So it was tough, and I think even when you've mapped that out, you've storyboarded it, you've scheduled it, you've still then got the logistics of putting all of those things together, which the production team do brilliantly well. We shot over 7 days. We probably had about 400 or 500 people every day on set doing those. So it's arduous, and it's really tough for everyone involved, not least the actors and the physicality of the stunts and fighting. But then you see it all cut together, and you know, we're really happy with it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the end result is magnificent and totally worth it. And of course, Alexander, you're always front and center in all of these battles. So what's that like filming them for you? Is it as tiring as it looks?
It is physically demanding for sure, but it's also one of my favorite moments of the shoot. You know, preparing the battles and shooting the battles, and as Nigel mentioned, Levente Lejac, who's our fight coordinator, just does such an extraordinary job, and the stunt double, my stunt double, who's also our fight master this year, Toma Katric, always comes up with the most extraordinary fight ideas, and we then dive into that and develop them. And you know, everybody is just so committed and willing to give it 100%, and it's fun. It's fun and it's thrilling. It's adrenaline producing, and you know, you literally, like, especially in this battle, you know, you have an army of horses galloping towards you, and you get a little glimpse of what it must have been like to be on a battlefield like that. And I think being able to sort of relive moments like that is a real privilege, you know.
And Aylesworth doesn't get involved so much in the big battle sequences, but in this season you've got some very brilliant kind of verbal battles with a lot of the characters who you come up against. So there's some great moments between you and Edward and Aelfled and Breda. I was wondering, what was your favourite to film? Which kind of like sparring partner was your favourite to have seen?
Well, I absolutely loved working with all of them, and as you say, there's some explosive dynamics between everybody this season. But I think my favorite would probably have to be Breda, because we haven't crossed paths very often in the past. So it's been amazing to see these two powerful women, at the head of their camp, trying to rule their kingdoms, and at the same time just seeing them head to head and getting what they want. And they're both very fearsome, so that was exciting. But also the scenes with Edward, in that she's trying to relinquish control over him, and the more he gains independence, the more she clings on to Alfred's vision, and it's really, really a struggle for her because they don't always see eye to eye. Also, it'd be hilarious if she got to do a battle scene. I mean, everyone wants to see that, right? Me wielding a sword, come on, it'd be hilarious.
I feel like she could surprise us. I'm sure she's got the passion. Yeah. And it's that scene with Breda, I think, is one of the best, most memorable scenes of the season. I really loved it. But this is a different season for Breda. I think you really notice that she's a bit more ruthless and a bit more bloodthirsty. This kind of a question to the floor. Do we see a path back to her, or do you think she's going to be taking a bit more of a villainous path from now on? Who'd like to start? Nigel? Or Alex?
I think we're going to see a bit of both, hopefully. I think she has been so let down by every man in her life that it's built this fire within her, and this fuel and this anger that is hard to go back on. And time again, she's had to be be behind men, and I think where she will go is to try and be seen as her own leader. But is there still redemption in there? I'd like to think there is in anyone.
Absolutely. I totally agree, because I just think that I don't blame her for all of the actions that she's had to take. And as Nigel says, especially through the horrendous scenes with the Welsh kings, she's just been treated so vilely, and she's now just trying to gain all the respect from her Danish peers, but also she's a newfound mother. So that's another toil that she's going to have to take on, and it's a really tough moment for her. So yeah, I don't blame her. I hope there's some redemption for her in the future.
Do you think Uhtred regrets kind of leaving Breda behind to some extent? Do you think that's a regret for him?
For sure. I mean, his relationship with Breda is kind of filled with regrets, and I think he always tries to do the best he can and tries to make her see reason from his point of view, but it always fails. And he truly loves Breda, he wants the best for her, and I think he just keeps hoping that she'll be able to see beyond their religious differences and the differences of allegiance, and it just keeps fading. So I know Uhtred hopes that it's going to work out for the best. So do I.
Yeah, definitely. And Eliza, you mentioned the introduction of the Welsh king, and that's a really interesting part of it, seeing kind of a new corner of the Last Kingdom. And I was wondering, Nigel, how do you go about introducing a sort of like a new tribe of people and deciding what that should look like? Is there a lot of kind of historical research that goes into that, or?
Yes and no, in real honesty. I think we wanted to widen the world of the Last Kingdom. We've been so centralized within certain locations, and Winchester being the hub. So I think it was really nice this season we started to unfold that and look at many different kind of and other locations. So that was really important, and bringing the Welsh in. And then what I think we did very early on when we first started the show was there's a lot of people. They're difficult names. They're difficult locations, and being very specific in trying to mark out who the different tribes were. And then as the show's gone on, obviously the Saxons and Danes have been more interwoven. So bringing a new, the Welsh in a new set of characters, then yeah, you really want something significant to mark them out. And so it's just that bit easier for us all to understand who and where these people are.
Mm. Mm.
And then Molly Emma Rowe, who's our costume designer, did such a good job at distinguishing them visually. I think that was a big help as well.
Mm. Mm. And also, not only just in costumes, but also in terms of sets and locations, The Last Kingdom has such kind of a striking look. I was wondering, obviously you film out in Hungary. Where has been your favourite filming location since joining the show?
I got one.
Go on.
Yeah.
There's a location called Dobogoku, which
Ooh.
is said to be the heart chakra of the world, whatever that means. But if there were such a thing, it does feel like it is the heart chakra of the world. It is just the most gorgeous place in the forest with these huge boulders. And we shot twice or three times there now, Nigel.
At least twice.
It's that tree that Uhtred and his gang sleep under. In episode 8, I think it is 7 or 8. It really looks like that. It's overwhelmingly gorgeous.
Yeah. I love all the Saxon sets, seeing all the different kingdoms, because it just really brings everything to life. Like the detail in all of the palaces, the castles, the rooms are just extraordinary. And yeah, everything is just so beautifully detailed. So going on set, it's like, entering like another magical kingdom. It totally puts you into the character, which is awesome.
Mm. And what about you, Nigel? Do you have anywhere that you love discovering?
I think what Hungary brings to us is this sense of other world. We don't really know what England looked like 1,000 years ago. So although it's not England and we've shot it on location, it has a kind of otherness to it that I've always really enjoyed. But yeah, I'm probably the same as Eliza, that I think the back lot itself that we have there is amazing. I think the designers that we have worked with over the years have just been brilliant at building this really fully formed, three-dimensional 360 world that we can shoot in, which is such a joy to all the directors coming on, and I think it's really helpful to the actors. And we expand on that, and they're brilliant at turning sets around. We go back to Bedinburgh at the start of this year. The original location we shot in, we couldn't go back to, so we had to rebuild that and redesign it to try and match what we previously shot. So there's always challenges that we come up against, and that kind of problem solving of how we shoot the writer's imagination. But that's all part of the challenge. And I think the set design has been fantastic this year. We've been really blessed. And so I think our kind of big backlogs, it feels our home now as well, because we've been there so long.
Mm. And
it's so sad when they get burnt down. That's what really gets me, when certain places in the Saxon sets have to be burnt down. I think no, because they're so fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not so fond of that bit either.
Yeah, money.
Do you get much time to kind of explore around Hungary? Like it's near Budapest that you film, isn't it? Do you get much time to sort of go out and see the city when you're not filming?
Oh, heck yes. Yeah, we're always running around, and we're such a sort of party cast. We're always out and about, going to restaurants and going out dancing, and the Pest side of Budapest.
Put that
is so much fun
out there for us, Eliza. That's a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
The party cast.
They were.
The party cast. So no, we absolutely explore the city. It's absolutely fantastic. And obviously the Buda side of Budapest is beautiful, with all the rolling hills and gorgeous landscapes. So the whole entire place is stunning. The River Danube. So yeah, we're always running about on our days off. It's so much fun.
I think it's great. I think the fans always love it when they know that that the cast on a show is actually getting along. But of course, you're missing a big member this year, because both of you, Eliza and Alex, would have had lots of scenes with David Dawson as King Alfred, and he's not around this season for obvious reasons. But did it feel strange, kind of coming back and not having him around?
Oh, absolutely. For me, especially because I mean, and Alex, of course, we had so many scenes side by side with the phenomenal David Dawson. So he was sorely missed. And just his character was truly phenomenal and brought so much amazing, you know, characterful energy to the screen. So without him, it's definitely felt like a very different show, but in a way that's quite interesting because now we're exploring new dynamics between each other. But yeah, he's sorely missed, as well as Harry McIntyre plays Ethelwald, and Tobias, who's Ragnar, like, you know, phenomenal characters.
But I think what the wonderful thing is that I believe his presence was still very much felt throughout the season.
Yeah.
And that really speaks to what a phenomenal, to repeat your words, job David Dawson did in creating Alfred.
Yeah, a fantastic performance. So now what I think we might do is move into some slightly more spoilery details. So to the people watching at home, I will just warn you, if you haven't finished season 4 yet, you may want to come back to this video maybe in about 10 minutes time, just because we'd really hate to spoil anything for you. So the thing that has, without a doubt, made the most people cry. If you go onto Twitter or Reddit and look at what people are talking about, everybody's crying over one particular death, and that is, of course, Father Bayoka, who has been a huge presence on the show from the very beginning. I have to ask, what was the mood like on set? Was that an emotional scene to film?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it was emotional and it was funny at the same time, because his last shots were literally Ian Hart having to lie in the cold, wet mud, and that didn't put him in the best of moods. But we all love Ian so much, and it's been such a privilege and honor to work with him. And all the scenes that I've had with him were so easy, because all I had to do is listen to him. You know, he really puts you in the moment, and you don't have to substitute anything. He's just such a present actor, that this scene was really no different. You know, playing his death and then knowing that he wasn't going to be with us anymore was made my job that day very, very sad and very easy.
Definitely. A lot of fans are wondering as well, this is kind of a fan question that I've noticed coming up, is that Hild is obviously a really big fan favorite character, and people are wondering, because she says in this season that her fighting days are over, but do we think that maybe this could stir her back into action? What do you think, Nigel?
Wouldn't it be great? I love that. Can't fight, hang up the rusty sword and came back. Yeah, well, I think she's it's a great character, and we love Hild. I think everyone does, and we'd love to carry her forward. So who knows?
We'll keep our fingers. Yes, we'll definitely keep our fingers crossed. There is another very memorable death this season, which I think is not only memorable for the death itself, but also there's this very kind of like eerie episode leading up to it. But of course, we're talking about Ethelred of Mercia here. This is a character who has been fairly nasty for most of his time on the show, but we are seeing there was a little bit of sympathy starting to show for him in his final hours. What do we think about the way that his ultimate fate? Who'd like to start?
I think it was incredible to see that vulnerable side of Ethelred, considering as a fellow villainous character that, you know, perhaps his intentions weren't always for the best. And, you know, now that he's reflecting on his life and has realized that he's had so many bad intentions and hurt so many people, that now he's going to lose his life, and that those around him are wishing him ill and wishing him dead, must be a horrible way to leave the world. But I really did feel a lot of empathy for his character. And yeah, it was really sad to watch. Phenomenal acting from Toby Regbo, stunning work. But yeah.
I think, yeah, just very spooky scenes as well. I mean, one of the scenes that stands out is when King Edward comes in and he sees Ethelred in bed, and I think he just didn't expect it to be quite as bad as it was, and you just totally see the look on Timothy in his face. It just drops. It's a fantastic moment. Well, we've also got to talk about another character's fate, which is kind of left a little bit up in the air, and that is
about Stayapa. Since we're talking about death, we have to talk about Stayapa's death. Come on.
So gory, horrific.
One of the most horrific deaths, and there are a lot of people crying out for Stayapa as well in the fan forums. What did you make of that brutal end to a character who's been there again from the beginning?
I'm sorry, you just cut off for a second.
Oh, really? Sorry.
Can you
Am I back?
repeat the last question?
Yeah. I was just talking about you mentioned Stayapa, and I was wondering what did you think? Such a gruesome end for a character who's been there from the beginning. Were you expecting that, or did it come as a shock?
Oh, it definitely came as a shock.
Yeah.
And it's so gory, so intense. But I think that is that sort of goes in line with Adrian Boucher, who is very intense himself. So I think we hit the nail on the head, hopefully.
Yeah.
And it's very on.
Another character who'll be sorely missed, absolutely. Yeah, but what a gruesome death! There's so many gruesome scenes in this series. In fact, I think it's taken a whole new level of gore. No wonder it's rated 18 now on Netflix. I had to look through my hands half of the time. It was unbelievable.
It's very on brand, though. You know, the Dark Ages, they're a dangerous time to live.
No kidding.
Of course, a lot of people are wondering, right at the end of season 4, and one of the biggest sort of dangling plot threads is the fate of Aylesworth, because it kind of left a little bit up in the air whether or not she's going to pull through from the poisoning. What was your reaction to reading that, Eliza? What happens to her?
Oh, well, in terms of any future Aylesworth, I'm not sure. I mean, praise him, praise be to God that she pulls through. But it was really exciting to play her, you know, in those more sensitive sides, not only emotional, but now physically. We really see her completely unraveling and becoming so weak, and, you know, those around her feeling complete and utter sympathy and actually realizing that they do need her around. And, you know, it's quite sad to maybe see her go. So we don't know, but praise be to God.
Yes, definitely. Well, I think everybody has their claws out for is it is Ethelhelm? Ethelhelm is the person who poisoned you.
I am now redeemed, and he's now taken on the crown of
yes, and
the nastiest person.
I think people are out for blood for him next season. If
certainly are.
Fingers crossed. So, well, we'll get on to some viewer questions now. We've got, as I said, we've got loads of them in. So let's try and get through a few of those now. The first one, we've got one for Nigel. Something that came up quite a lot in the comments is that Uhtred obviously has 3 children, one of whom Gisela sadly passed away giving birth to. And a lot of
doesn't know how many kids he really has.
That's what we know of.
Very true. Was there a version of season 4 in which the 3rd child featured, or whereabouts do you think he is now?
Obviously when we look at the books and map out the season, and we look at new characters coming in, and it was obviously talked about at the very beginning. I think we're always conscious about bringing in new characters, and there's an awful lot of them within this season, and there's a lot of younger characters come in. And obviously we only have 10 episodes, we only have so many hours and so many storylines that we could really push through. So there's a conscious decision about who we really want to, who's propelling the story along, and who do we want to really, we don't want to cheat the audience of not meeting the characters and going on a journey with them. And if we put too many in, it can dilute that at times. There's a lot of characters on any ensemble piece, and that means there's a lot of kind of mouth to feed for the writer. So we're always conscious of that, and we really felt that we were introducing, you know, Uhtred's 2 children. We also had Elfwin and Ethelstan that were caught up in all the action and storylines, and just it would be one character too many. So unfortunately, we don't like to deviate from the books. We like to keep the characters and the essence there, but sometimes it just doesn't work. But that's not to say we couldn't see them in the future.
I've got a question here for Alex. So because Uhtred has such an incredible bond on the show with his kind of band of merry men, Sihtric, Finan, and Osfer. What's the relationship between you guys in real life? Do you hang out much, like outside of set?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, they've all become some of my best friends, and right now I miss them dearly. I wish I could go over to England and hang out with them, but we spend a lot of time together off set, and I think that comes through on the screen. I think with the rest of the cast as well. You know, we've really been blessed, and that's what I wanted to add earlier to what we were talking about earlier. Talking about Kelly and Alex, our casting directors. They managed to put together not only talented actors but also really good, cool, respectful people, and we all became a big family, you know, and I think that's part of what makes this show really wonderful, is that energy just comes through.
Yeah. They're like the hottest boy band in Saxon England, right? Uhtred's gang. Like the boy zone of 890 AD.
Absolutely. Here's an interesting one. I'll be intrigued what you have to say about this. This is for Alex and Eliza, and someone on Instagram, I believe, has asked if you can give your character an item from the modern day, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. I think I'd give Ailsworth an iPad so that she can create her own Twitter account and then start pushing her own like political agendas with the current politicians of this time. I think she'd have a lot to say about how to put the world to rights right now. Push her authoritarian agenda with all these politicians.
I'd go much more simple. I'd go a pair of warm socks or thermal underwear in winter and a pair of sunglasses in summer.
Banging.
Nice, functional.
Yeah.
I think Uhtred would appreciate that.
Here, but I feel they're still easier to get by than an iPad.
Yeah, fair enough.
And here's one for everyone. If you could bring back one character from the dead, who would you pick and why? So should we start with Nigel on this one?
Oh God. Who did we bring back? We've killed so many people. I think, it's a tricky one. I would say it's probably Alfred. Because I think David was so wonderful when we've talked about David. And I think, you know, we feel it throughout this season, not just as him as an actor, but that presence of Alfred, always pushing his agenda and that motivating everyone who's left there to try and, you know, create this dream of his. And so I think his presence is always felt.
Yeah. I totally agree with Nigel. Like, not having David Dawson and Alfred around has been the hardest thing. But also, I really, really loved Ethelwald. And as a fellow baddie of the season, I just adored all of his insane antics and his cheeky, deliciously villainous ways and crazy shenanigans. So I miss Ethelwald.
Yes.
And Harry
On and
McIntyre
off
is
set.
unbelievable. Yeah, on and off set. Harry McIntyre is the funniest human being you'll ever meet.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd bring them all back. It's too tough to make a decision on that.
How diplomatic of you. I'd bring them all back.
Leifrid, come on, it's too. I don't know. I can't pick one.
That's fair enough. You're definitely spoilt for choice. Well, that kind of leads us on to the next question. This comes from Twitter, and someone has asked, "What are the funniest memories you have from filming?" This could be another difficult one, but anything stands out?
Alex, I don't know if you remember the scene in season 1. I think it's at 7, where we're in the marshes, and I was really upset over Edward's illness, and we were in the marshes and we were filming, and obviously it was a really emotional scene for Ailsworth, and we did so many takes, and then by one of the final shots where they had to do a close-up on me.
I know.
Yeah, forever and ever. And I remember wanting to cry so much. I've been crying in all the other takes, and then the final take, I couldn't push out any more tears. So I thought that you were supposed to put like something in your eyes in order to create tears. And I thought you were supposed to put Carmex, the lip balm, in your eyes, but it turns out it was Vicks, which some of the makeup artists just sort of blow into your eyes to get you to cry. But I'd confused Vicks with Carmex. So there I am with my Carmex lip balm, and I put it in my eyes. And obviously, please don't do that at home. And I was just streaming with tears. I literally blinded myself. And I remember just going,
you didn't only put it under your
cut.
eyes. You put it in your eyes, didn't you?
I got a huge dollop, put it in both my eyes, and Alex had to walk towards me. I remember just him coming towards me. And I was like, I can't see, please, God.
I remember thinking you had an eye infection or something.
We had to get the medic on set. It was insane. And I was like, but I thought you were supposed to put Carmex in your eyes. And everyone was like, no, you don't do that. That was my funniest moment. That was ridiculous.
But what about you, Alex? Do any other moments stand out to you?
Oh man, I'm gonna be honest with you. They're too un-PC to mention. I can't tell you. I think there are a lot of funny moments with the stunt doubles. Those guys always make me laugh because they make a lot of fun of us, and we have this running joke with Thomas, my stunt double, that the show is really his show, and that I just come in every now and again to do some blah blah blah, and then it's back to him. But I don't know. There isn't one moment that stands out, to be honest. We crack up every day on that set. We really do.
We really do. And also because so many of the scenes are so dark and serious and hard hitting, you think that we were all super somber on set, but it couldn't be the opposite, could it? Like, we're literally the silliest cast with such goofballs. So it's really, really fun.
Well, I've got another question here. This one comes from Katie Herbert on Facebook. And this one says, what was the most difficult scene to film this season, either physically, emotionally, or logistically? Who would like to start with this one?
Well, I'm sure one of the most difficult parts was that battle that you talked about at the beginning of Tetton Hall. And I think Sarah O'Gorman, who directed it, really brought it together. But that was tough. We shot it over a couple of days, and those battles, whenever you shoot them, there are always moments where you just think, oh my God, everything's falling apart. It's just chaos. And then somehow everything comes together and it looks wonderful. I think that probably logistically must have been that, and the whole water stuff.
All the boat and the storm.
Was very difficult.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times, you had to be on these boats and the director couldn't even be there with you. You're kind of, once you were on the boat, and then it was all water cannons and wave machines and.
So was that all on a sound stage then? Some kind of set? You didn't film like out like in the natural water or anything?
The battle was out, was in the field. Everything around Bebbanburg, all the water stuff depends. There were scenes that we shot on a lake, with real boats. I mean, everything was real boats, but we were actually out on the lake. And then everything that was close to Bebbanburg, close to that cliff edge, was on a huge water tank on a sound stage.
Wow, that's really impressive. It really looks so real. You'd never question it for a minute.
I mean, when I was up there on the top of the cliff edge, looking down into the water, which was obviously a tank, it looked real. It looked like I was next to the cliffs and looking down into the sea.
Yeah. What about you, Eliza? Are there any scenes that you found difficult this time round?
I think the one that was just most challenging, because obviously Els was never in like the direct action necessarily. The first time we see her with a lot of the Danes, and she's with Uhtred's gang, and they set up camp in the forest, and Heston and his men ambush the group. And that was just such a fun but also quite challenging scene, because usually I just scowl and palace in corridors all day long, but this was really fun because we were in the forest, we had all the epic Vikings, and it was just really, really cool to immerse yourself in the more dangerous parts of the show, which I really loved.
I got a funny moment for you after.
Okay, great.
So after we lose the battle at Bebbanburg and we come back out, we run out of the sea gate and onto the jetty, and we have to jump into the ship. The ship takes off, and it's chaos. There's a storm. The waves are going crazy. There are projectiles flying at us, which we use these big water cannons for to make the water splash all over us. And all of that had to be rehearsed. We were shooting at night, and this was in the afternoon, and we were doing a rehearsal. And we were wearing these, because there were huge rain machines, and it wasn't warm yet. It was freezing still. We were wearing what you call a chill cheater, which is kind of like a basically body-sized condom thing that it's all it's all sort of rubber, and it's skin colored, so from far away it looks like you're naked. If you wear it underneath your costume, of course. But for the rehearsal, Arnis turned up in his chill cheaters, so from far away he looks like he's just naked.
I remember this.
And we're going for a rehearsal, and right before the rehearsal, before the take, Arnis and I are kidding around, and I say to him, why don't you do this one in Spanish? Knowing that we don't speak Spanish. But to my greatest joy, he goes for it, and he runs out, and water cannons are going, and there's lots of fighting going on, and extras and stunt doubles fighting. And Arnis does the whole thing in Spanish with the 3 words of Spanish he knows. And he goes, "Vamos, muchachos, vamos a trabajo." And the whole cast cracks up. It was brilliant. And I think there's a video of it. With any chance, he'll post it at some point. So look out for it.
That's great. We've got another question here. This one comes from Catherine Hegarty on Facebook, and it's a question for Nigel. And she says that the Last Kingdom is a very different series to many of the others that you've worked on. So what drew you to it, and what made you really want to take it on?
It was first brought by one of our development team, Henrietta, had read it years ago, and I think the changes in how TV was made, I don't think you could have made it back then. But nowadays, with so much more visual effects and so much more production value. So she first brought it up to us. And then it was, I think it was 2 things. The fact that we've never really seen this period in history that much. It's quite unknown. It's not been something that's really been investigated. And then this other notion about how England came about. Just for all of us, it all feels like it's always been here. So the history of how these separate kingdoms came together and formed England as we know it, I thought was really fascinating and interesting. And then obviously that there's this great kind of hero and through story and battles, and it feels so epic. So it's just great fodder, and it tells history, but has such entertainment value to it as well. I think that blend of so it doesn't feel too dry, and we're discovering things. Bernard's amazing of how much real history he puts into the books and interweaves it with fiction. So I think all of those, and I think as well it feels a fully formed world. And I think for Carnival, be it Downton or The Last Kingdom, they feel a real 3-dimensional world that you can dive in and immerse yourself in. And I think that's a similar theme.
And it's a world that no one is keen to be leaving. I mean, in the run up to this event, loads of people were asking about season 5, and in the comment section tonight, loads of people are asking about it too. I understand that you may not be able to confirm or deny anything at the moment. It's all very top secret. But let's ask this question then. What would you like to happen in season 5 if we're lucky enough to get one? Who would like to start? Alex, what about you?
Like to get Bevenber.
Yeah.
Time.
Come on now, we've been waiting for it.
He's got to go back. He's got to go back for a second attempt, surely.
Sure.
What about you, Eliza?
When we were talking about Hild and her warrior skills and saying maybe Ellsworth should start wielding a sword, I think there should be Ellsworth and Hild warrior nun spin-off. Obviously, that's what the fans need. That's what they want. Give it to them. Yeah, come on.
Well, what about you, Nigel? What would you like to see in a fantasy season 5?
Well, look, we'd love, we're very hopeful. We'd love to do a season 5. I think all of us want to tell a story, and I think it's always much more satisfying if you can tell a complete story throughout all the various seasons. So, and I think I speak for everyone that we really do love making it. We do at Carnival. All of our actors, as we talked about, get on so well. Everyone's a family. We've got crew that come back both from England and the UK and from Budapest that have been there since the beginning. So we'd love to carry on. So fingers crossed. And I think we want to tell the story of, you know, as I said before, about these separate kingdoms coming together and how that union happens, and also what's Uhtred's journey. Does he get back to Bebbanburg? Does he get his dream? Does he find his legacy? And what's his involvement in bringing these kingdoms together? So we'd love to carry on.
Brilliant. Yes. Well, yeah, I think we're all hoping for it. We've got a question here from Joy Lee Contemprato on Facebook. She asks, do you feel like you have any similarities with the characters you play? So who would like to take this one first?
Absolutely
I'll
not.
tell you all.
I mean, I hope not. I really, really hope not. No way. If I did, you guys better tell me, and I'm going to start that straight away.
You don't. You can be quite intimidating.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm so ferocious.
When you're in karaoke night.
Yeah, don't mess with me on my karaoke night, okay? Then you gotta get it.
What's your song of choice?
Always Cher. It's gotta be Cher.
Wow.
Alex knows that. Alex knows I like to whip out a good believe in love after love.
She's good. She's really good.
It sounds quite spectacular. Yeah. What about you, Alex? Do you see any of Uhtred in yourself sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. I'm mischievous in real life, just like he is. Yeah.
So we've got a question here. This could be quite a difficult one. If you could give any advice to your character, what would it be?
I'd say I tell him, seize every opportunity you get to hug Father Bayaka.
Oh,
lovely. It's really lovely.
That's very nice. That's a very good answer, I must say.
Yeah.
What about you, Eliza?
I would probably tell Ailsworth to maybe forget that bearded hairstyle moment that she began in season 1. I think she thought that was a cute look. Maybe she didn't own many mirrors, but I think upon reflection, she's probably changed her style up a little bit for the better.
So we've got a question here. This one comes from Facebook. Obviously, we're all obsessed with The Last Kingdom. We all love The Last Kingdom. That goes without saying. But this person has asked, what other TV series, movies, or books are you really into at the moment and keeping yourself entertained with during the lockdown?
Forget King Edward. It's got to be the Tiger King, right? I've watched all the episodes of the Tiger King. That's what I've been doing.
That's a very strong choice.
Yeah.
What about you, Nigel?
I've just caught up with Westworld, which I've absolutely loved. So it's been that nice time where you can kind of deep dive into shows that you've not quite managed to see the first time around. So yeah, I'm working my way through that. And has also done the Tiger King as well.
Yeah. Ashamedly so, yeah. Don't tell anyone.
And for you,
yeah, I did see a few of the Tiger King, which obviously the characters were extraordinary. I just think that it didn't make enough of how badly these animals were treated, and I feel like it slightly missed the mark on that front. But my favorite show of all times, I think, is The Office, the US version, and I watch and rewatch that. Especially in a time like this when there's a lot of anxiety and you don't know what's going to come. I mean, that always puts me in a good mood. I literally have to drink to replenish my fluids because I cry so much from laughing.
Use some Carmex. Put some Carmex in your
We've got a question here from Instagram, and this person says, if there wasn't a lockdown, if we weren't in these kind of ridiculously strange situations, what would you be up to right now? Do you have any other projects on the horizon, or any plans that you want to do what you want to do?
That's very funny. I'm doing this interview on my phone, and I just got a text from the director that I'm supposed to be working with right now in Mexico, shooting a movie as you asked that question.
There you go.
I would be in Mexico.
That's amazing.
Mm.
I'd just be having massive Last Kingdom watching parties with this fabulous gang. That's what I'd be up to right now. Yeah, and hugging them so much.
Nice. What about you, Nigel? Did you have any things on the horizon?
We were fortunate that we weren't shooting anything. So Carnival itself is business as usual. We're all working remotely and kind of busy as ever. But probably at this time, I'd probably be drunk. So I'm holding back. I hope you appreciate this.
So for the last 10 minutes or so of the stream, I'm just going to go to our live Facebook comments and just see what people are talking about. We've got one question here from John Williams, who asks, Alexander, what is your workout routine?
Oh man, I'm very fortunate to have a tree in the backyard. I've built myself a jungle gym to survive COVID. It's keeping me sane. I'm climbing around in trees. I hung up a boxing bag, and I'm just finding stuff to lift. I'm walking around the house with furniture.
That's inventive. You've got to take. You got to
be inventive.
We've got a question here from Grant Boroso, and they ask, how do you feel about watching your own work on the screen? Is it a bit strange, or do you enjoy it?
It's always really, really bizarre, I think, to watch yourself back. I'm lucky that in a weird way, I'm nothing like Ellsworth. So I almost feel sometimes that I'm not watching myself in a weird way. So yeah, it's an odd feeling.
Tell that story about your family who was looking out.
Oh my goodness. So I'm half American and my family live in the States. And when the show was first on BBC, it went to BBC America first. And I called up my auntie and said, oh, you guys have seen the whole show before I have. Did you guys like it? And they were like, honey, you're not in it at all. And I was like, oh, I know I'm in the background a bit. I'm like King Alfred's wife, but I'm in it. And they were like, you were King Alfred's wife? You were that horrible woman? Oh my God. We didn't even recognize you. Oh, we were screaming at the screen every time you were on. Oh God. And I was like, what?
That's a compliment.
I guess.
Compliment.
Hopefully nothing like Ellsworth in lots of ways. But yeah, but it's also really cool to watch each other because especially, for me, I don't get many scenes with the Danes and the Vikings. So being able to watch their incredible work is always just the best feeling. I'm just couldn't be more proud of them. They're astonishing.
We've got another question here from the live chat asking, how difficult is it to act in heavy armour? I suppose that's best tailored to you, Alex.
Well, how difficult is it? It's you kind of get used to it. At the beginning, I had kind of a chronic backache, but you I don't know, you get used to it. It's like it's heavy, but after a while, your body just does it. And we're lucky, we're wearing a lot of leather armors, but back in the day, they would wear a lot of metal, like chainmail, and that was truly heavy. So can't really complain.
And we'll just go for one or two last questions here. We've got a character here. We've got a question here which says, which is your favorite character in the series in terms of how they've developed over time?
I would have to say my daughter, Lady Ethelfled. I am just obsessed with her work, and also it's just wonderful to see her go from, this young teenage girl in season 2 to now a fully fledged, ruler of Mercia. I've absolutely loved her storyline. I thought she's just done the most unbelievable job. So yeah, I've had fun watching her, and also just prattling around with Millie Brady is the funnest thing because we're obviously a similar age, but getting to play her mother is just so much fun. But yeah, so her storyline is brilliant. She's amazing.
Yeah, we've really been blessed with the writers, because they really try to give an interesting arc to every character, even if it's a smaller one. And I think for every actor, that's kind of the most important thing, that you feel like you're developing, you have somewhere to go, you're not running around in circles. So I think there are a lot of interesting character arcs on the show.
Nigel, what about you?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. It's true, and actually, I think Alex is dead on there, because you look at the pair of you and the journey that you've been on. I think that kind of Uhtred that was so tempestuous and made so many mistakes, and we've seen in this season more the politician. With Elswith, we've seen her, find some form of redemption and change her attitude towards Uhtred. So I think Alex is absolutely right. That's what we try to do, and the writers try to do, is give everyone a journey. I think probably in the shortest was Hild, who went from a nun to a kind of warrior, ninja nun. Wow. We always love.
Ninja nun.
A question that's been asked a couple of times here in the stream is, if you could swap characters, which character apart from your own would you choose to play?
Ooh.
Probably Heston.
Heston. Good shout.
I would play Heston because he gets to spit a lot, he gets to eat a lot, and he rides the coolest horse.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with his horse. His name is Joker.
Oh, nice. He was terrifying.
Yeah.
Best horse in the world. I would say, I'm again a big fan of a baddie, so I go Ubba, because I think he was just absolutely insane, played by the phenomenal Runa Tempter. Yeah, he was just so much fun and just like hilariously crazy in every scene. I'd like to play Ubba. He was epic.
We've got another question here for Eliza. Do you ever slip into your character by mistake in real life?
I just don't see where there could possibly be a chance of that. That's really cruelly telling somebody off. That happens. It'd be the only moment I would slip into Lady Elswith. But, sometimes just for fun, I tie my hair under my chin like a beard and prance around in big cloaks. It's great.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we might be coming to the end of the stream now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and for asking such brilliant questions. Obviously, a huge thank you to our guests, Alexandra Dreymon, Eliza Butterworth, and Nigel Marchant. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us tonight. Make sure to look out for more future live streams on radiotimes.com. We've been doing more and more of these as of late, so do keep your eyes peeled. And that, I believe, is that for the night. So again, just thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you very much for joining us, our illustrious guests. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. All right.